It's good afternoon, not good morning. We already did our hour here, so we're getting towards lunchtime. But yeah, it's nice. Ran over to the office today and recorded a live podcast. It sure was a good one, preparing for hunts that we draw this season.
Yeah, this is the most important time of year. You might think that hunting season's go time, but this is go time. The planning, the understanding what you're dealing with when you draw a tag and the timing of it and putting that all together. I mean, it's a challenge. It's an art in itself, let alone the hunting part. And so, yeah, these are always engaging conversations, and I know the listeners are going to love this one.
Yep. For sure. We'll get right into it. Just want to thank a couple sponsors. Want to thank Cutter. So Earl Stroll owns Cutter Stabilizers. They've been doing a great job. So no matter what your preference is for stabilizers, you can get one all different sizes, and then you can add or subtract weights by 1 ounce on both your front bar, on your sidebar. If you choose to shoot a sidebar, they have a sidebar mount. He's really thought of everything as far as stabilizers with that company.
Yeah, and like you said, just modularity wise, like you can make it anything you want it to be. And with the quick detach and then adding weight to the front, where they in is it 2 or 4 ounce pieces that you can add?
Yeah, you can get 1 ounce or 4 ounce
One or
pieces.
four, yeah. And I find that it's critical, and I like a longer stabilizer. I was joking about it that I like a stabilizer that's long enough to not only do its job, but also when I'm like crawling and sneaking, it's protecting my bow sight too, because it's long enough, right? And my bow sight's not slamming on the ground. I got my top part of the limb and then my stabilizer too. It's a piece of equipment that if you can beat it up,
Yeah.
you can really beat them up.
I don't know if Earl wants me to say this, but I kind of use mine like a trekking pole as I'm going uphill. Sometimes I use it 15 out front, and I'll kind of use it as a trekking pole out front to post on. And yeah, you look at the front of my weight, and there's just no more color left to it. It's all just chipped up and things. But yeah, they will stand up to the abuse. So they're carbon fiber, which is really good. So they're light, but then you're adding the weight to the end. So that weight, it affects the bow more when you don't have a weighted stabilizer all the way through. It's also like a really small diameter, so it cuts the wind really good. So it's better for your hold in windy conditions. And there's always wind out west. It doesn't have to be screaming 30 to affect your bow hold. Like even a 5 mile an hour wind is tough to hold in. So I think that small diameter definitely helps that as well.
Yeah, it's all the little things that add up that make a big difference.
Yep. The quick detach you
I love
talked
it.
about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that as well. Yeah, being able to detach quick and put it, whether you're flying somewhere and you can put it in your case or just riding in the truck and not bumping into your buddy's shoulder or bumping into somebody else's bow. Keeping your bow safe on a hunt. We haven't talked about that at all, but just in the truck, you got to have a good spot for your bow where it's not gonna rattle around, and stabilizers can kind of help sit into place on seats and things as you lay over, or you can store them away so you have more room to store multiple bows. So
Yeah, that's very important. Even truck hauling, I'll take that stabilizer and I'll wedge it down in between the seat, and that stabilizer will kind of keep my bow in place without rattling around. So I mean, yeah, stabilizer. It seems like it's a simple, just a one-purpose component, but it's a multi-use component that. Yeah, if you don't have one, you should get one.
Yep, definitely affects the hold of the bow and the reaction of the bow. I really like fine tuning it and finding the best hold. So yeah, make sure to check those guys out over at Cutter Stabilizers. The other one we have today, which we talked about in the podcast, was Team Lodge. Really like those guys at Team Lodge. They just build a great product. And I was able to look at their trailer more in depth when we went to the Western Hunting Expo, and just so impressed how it's not just a tin box like a lot of these campers and RVs are. Man, this thing is built like really stout to be able to go up and down these gnarly roads that we go up, like gravel roads that have a lot of washboard to them and things, and your trailer's going to hold up and last for years of abuse or use anyways. But yeah, they just build a great trailer.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. They're built to last, and in this day and age, it's hard to find that. And made in America, of course, made in South Dakota, but they're designed to sit on the ground or on the ice. That's originally where the idea came from, but there's these hydraulics that set the trailer down on the ground, and so you have this fortress, is what I like to call it, because it's built so well, and you set it down on the ground, and it's stable, it's solid. You can't even hear the wind blow when you're in these things sleeping, and then they're designed around like what hunters would want. And so, with the door in the back, the drop door for any vehicle, side by side, couple dirt bikes, whatever, you have that easy loading and unloading, and then the bunks and the sink and toilet, and there's all different models. But yeah, they're a well thought out, really quality piece of equipment that's put together with hunters in mind. What more could you ask for?
Mm-hmm. And still mention this podcast when you buy one, and you might get a free bow or a free rifle out of it. We've committed them to this promo, and so we keep pushing it. So if you're going to buy a Team Lodge, make sure that you tell them you heard about it here and get that free bow so you've got that new Matthews shooting for this season.
Yeah, do it. Michael said that, if you mention that you heard this ad on Life of the Bowhunter podcast, he'll buy you a custom rifle or a bow to go along with it. So yeah, pretty sweet, really.
Yeah, really sweet. Yeah, you couldn't have like a better base camp, like home base. And we talk about it today, and you used it,
I use it
to help be successful to kill one of your best bulls to date last year.
That's right. It's very important to have a quality base camp. And not all hunts you're going to use a Team Lodge, right? Not all of them you're going to use a trailer, but there's certain applications that it's imperative, in my opinion. If you want longevity and you want maximum effectiveness on hunts that require it, maybe a limited entry hunt for deer, elk, or like a moose hunt, like guys moose hunt too. Moose hunting's usually, it's a time thing, right? It could take up to 3 weeks. Your moose hunt took a while too. It's just the nature of hunting moose can take a while. So when you have comforts of home like that, you're just going to be a more effective hunter. So super important.
Yep. 100%. So thanks to those guys. And check out everything we're doing over at Eastman's. We have the Deer Collective, Elk Collective, possibly the best learning tools at your fingertips for such a fraction of the price of what it costs to like gain these skills and gain this experience. So it's Dan Pickar and I. We also have guest hosts on there. Guy Eastman does a part on there, but we really take you from the beginning level of how to just do this traveling hunting for mule deer, for elk, and how to be successful, how to learn units, how to get your gear dialed in, like all the way A to Z through this video library that you can walk yourself through and learn how to be an effective Western hunter.
Yeah, very simple. And we talk about this so much on the logistics and the planning and all these other things that are so imperative to have to really put a hunt together and be successful. Like the actual killing and harvesting and the pack out is such a small portion of a hunt. And so these collectives are what are going to fast track you to learning this knowledge that has taken us years of experience and a lot of failures to figure out on our own, but we put it all in one place with the Deer Collective. We've partnered with the Elk Collective. So it's just a ton of information all in one place on eastmans.com. And to throw this in there too, we're doing our code this year, which last year we did the code ANCHOR, which you guys really took advantage of, but it's 75% off. We're going to do this again this year. We know times are a little bit tough. We were considering using the word tariff for a code because of the trade wars that are going on right now. And so, yeah, money's tight. So we're going to do the same thing that we did last year, 75% off of the original price. So it's like $25. Use code LOB, Life of a Bowhunter, LOB, and you're going to get 75% off the Elk Collective or the Deer Collective. So this is basically the only place that you're going to hear or see about this offer is this podcast, exclusive to this podcast. We're not going to talk about it anywhere else. So that's just for you guys. It's the best deal of the year. It's the best deal anywhere, anytime for the collectives. So definitely take advantage of it.
Yep. Awesome. LOB, that'll save you 75%. And there just couldn't be a a better time to take advantage of it before season here. Just brush up on your mule deer hunting, your elk hunting, and learn some secrets from some guys that have been there and done that, and share it. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that. We do have a new episode coming out on Eastmans Hunting TV. It's the Beyond the Grid. So yeah, you can check that out on YouTube. So it's your bear hunt. I saw you watching over it today. I saw a few clips of it. It looked like it turned out really good.
Yeah, there was a lot to it. I did say we were going to release it last week, but it got pushed back just because it was a 45-minuter. I mean, that's kind of a long episode. I mean, we shot 8 bears. There's a lot to decipher. There's a lot to go through. So just with the effort to really produce a quality product, we pushed it off a week, and it's going to release this Saturday. What is this, about May 4th? Probably after, this is released. It'll be, I think we'll release this the following week. So it'll be out by the time you guys hear this podcast. So go check it out. Yep. Black bear episode, last one of the season. New season coming up in July for us. And we're already working on those elk episodes. We have some awesome episodes this year. Awesome elk hunts all across the West between you and me, and Jordan Bashir's killed a great bull too. So, just an exciting time for content coming out. Be sure to check out Eastman's Hunting Journal's YouTube channel, and you won't miss anything. Subscribe to that. It helps us out. And I've been posting some of these management videos. I don't know what else you would call them, but this last video that I released this week was talking about what really happened in Yellowstone with the release of the wolf and the whole trophic cascade theory is what it is. And so did the trophic cascade really happen? I talked about that, and there's a couple studies that came out that debunked it, meaning that there were too many elk in the park, and they needed the wolf to cut the numbers down on the elk. And with the lower elk numbers, then the willows could have a chance to grow back, and then the beavers could come back because there's no beavers left. So kind of bizarre, really, that this theory that they push in some places, it's actually it does work, but Yellowstone wasn't one of those. And so I talked about it. Seems to be fairly controversial. A lot of comments on it. Very interesting in the comment section. So go check out that video too on Eastman's Hunting Journal's YouTube channel.
Yeah. Sometimes the comments are better than the content itself. Not that it's better than the content, but yeah, it interests us as humans sometimes to see what other people are saying. But yeah, that sounds awesome, man. I haven't watched that. Yeah, I need to go check it out as well.
Good stuff.
Sounds like a great video.
Yep.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'd say we get into this podcast. It's a good one. Life of a Bowhunter. Let's get it started.
Here we go. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Right. Thrive in the chaos. Seems like it's a bit busy this morning, but I had some breakfast. Todd brought in breakfast this morning, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah, a little sausage and what do you call the blueberry?
Like a blueberry crumble of some sort.
Yeah, coffee cake
His
crumble.
Wife cooked?
That's good.
Oh, it's so good.
It's good.
Yeah.
I'd be a good fat person. I'd be eating that stuff up.
Yeah, I've been cutting a little bit, which has been good, just changing my body composition. It's so tough to lose 5 pounds out of your pack, but you can lose 5 pounds off your body. And not that me and you have a lot of fat on our bodies to begin with, but I had a little extra that I could kind of lose. So yeah, it's kind of wild cutting calories or just keeping track of everything. It really it's surprising because I've never counted calories before, but it keeps me pretty honest to to what I'm eating day in, day out. And you can really change your body. And us guys, you don't have anything to lose. I've maybe got 5 pounds to lose, but 5 pounds out of my pack is a big deal. It makes me more efficient on the mountains and puts less wear and tear on my joints as well.
Yeah, the lighter you can run, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think it comes down to just eating whole foods and fruit, right? Fruit, whole foods. And, I try to watch what I eat, but when you're going, and you have food in front of you, it's easy to eat trash, right? If food's in front of you and you're in a hurry. And so, yeah, nowadays, I try to just be more conscious of what I'm putting in my body and just keep it simple, whole foods.
Yeah. It keeps me accountable tracking things, when I can look at what I ate throughout the day.
Yeah.
But you're right, whole foods is everything. It's just eating good foods, non-processed, and then cutting a lot of the sugar out too. So, I've always been pretty good at cutting sugar out, but it's like you can always tighten it down just a little bit more, And so, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the grams of sugar every day that I'm taking in, but it's amazing. Like, I put more muscle on my frame through a lot of the lifting and things, so my weight was heavier, but yeah, I start to watch it come off. And they say like 3,500 calories is a pound. So if you run a 500 calorie deficit for 7 days, that's your 3,500 calories. That's 1 pound per week of fat that you can pull off your system. And you want to be careful. You don't want to be too lean or pull muscle off your system. Like, it's a balance that we're all trying to find out. But yeah, I've just noticed, like, my midsection, it's like, I could just lose a little bit there and lose a little bit off my pack weight. And also it helps my running. I'm more efficient with being lighter. So I don't know, just playing around with things.
It's good. It's good stuff. And the one thing I've discovered, just kind of reminded me this as you were talking there, is like drink alternatives. And I found this. It's called Poppy, Poppi, and it's a prebiotic drink. I was going to call it a soda, but it's not a soda. But it tastes good for the fact that it doesn't have all the sugar. I think 5 grams of cane sugar. There's nothing bad in it. And I told my wife Eva, I was like, with raising a 4-year-old and getting him to stay hydrated, and we hit home water, of course, but he likes juice, and so I'm always like, if you're going to drink juice, drink 100% juice, and look at the labels, because you find a lot of it is like 30% juice, and then it's just high fructose corn syrup or some other additive that they're watering it down. And I'm like, do not put that in our kid. Let's stay away from that. And then of course soda too. We called it pop growing up, whatever you want to call it. But, man, that stuff's bad for you.
It's the worst, man.
The sugar levels that are in that.
Oh, my gosh. 50 grams for a can or whatever. It's so bad. I know it.
But the alternative, Poppy, dude, I'm telling you. I mean, it is like $2.50 a can, so you get it on sale for like $2 a can, which is like, okay, that's a little bit more palatable. But there's like 5 grams of sugar. It's got juice in it. It has prebiotics. It has a little bit of apple cider vinegar, but it tastes really good. So it's like the best drink alternative that is incredibly healthy. And Dean likes it too. I was like, I don't care what it costs. If Dean likes it, get him this instead of juice, sugar, anything sugar, because there's really no downside to it. In this day and age, it's just like, it drives me crazy with how many additives are in our foods that specifically are being fed to our kids. RFK is doing all the jabbering for me. I can stop here, but it's cool to see him going after it.
It is cool to see.
Because nobody's really gone to bat for health and for kids and what they're putting in food. And in America, it's so easy. Life is just so fast paced. It's so easy to not read labels and just put stuff in front of kids and get them to eat it. And so I'm glad somebody's finally going to bat for Americans.
I didn't know how bad it was as a kid. You always kind of know that pop isn't, or soda isn't good for you. But I had it a bunch as a kid, and I had it a bunch as a young adult too. I was just like, oh, I'm working a bunch. I'll just work off anything I have. I'm working 8-10 hours a day. It's fine. But all that sugar in your system is so bad for it. So yeah, I don't drink any of it anymore. I just can't. I can't bring myself to drink a can seeing all the sugar in there. But nutrition is a major component of overall health. And we talk so much about working out, about exercise, about weight training, but the nutrition, like, you can't outwork a bad diet. And really, it's about holding yourself accountable, eating real foods, not eating too much. I think, that same equation that I said, 500 calorie deficit per day, I think a lot of people get trapped going the other way, where they're eating 500 calories or even 250 calories too much every single day, which ends up being a pound a week or a pound every 2 weeks. And once you get in those habits, then you're just adding this extra weight to your frame. But if you really want to perform well in the mountains, if you really want to have longevity in the mountains, like, nutrition is the key. And so I've really been dialing in mine as well. And Yeah, I feel it in the mountains. Like I feel way better. And yeah, if I can drop a few pounds out of my pack as well, that's another meal or two where I can take, or just be more efficient in the mountains. So I think it's really important. And I think people, you have to decide for yourself. It's something that nobody else can do for you.
Yeah, yeah. The big turning point for me was a couple people around me. One was Brandon Mason. He, drinking soda every day for a long time, and the achy joints, the inflammation, the joint issue was his major thing, and he stopped drinking soda, and all his pain and inflammation, it just went away. And so paying attention to a few guys around me that were, maybe 10 years older than me. I was still pretty young at the time, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And then all these studies backing it up. It's like, it makes a huge difference. And once again, I'm thinking about longevity in the mountains. That's my number one focus, is I want to be doing this at age 70 if I have anything to say about it. And so that's ultimately thinking about the long term of like, man, got to plan for that now and put high quality food into your body and get longevity out of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're spot on. Like that joint pain too. I had a pretty clean diet. As I've cleaned it up even more and cut more of that sugar out, I have zero joint pain. Like it's amazing. Yeah, I just don't feel a thing in my joints. I think I've cut down on a lot of my inflammation, and it wasn't that big of a change. Just I don't know how much sugar I was taking in a day, but not a whole lot. But cutting that out, I feel way better. Yeah, I can feel it in my nutrition, and then. Yeah, on that longevity, like, I know I told you before, I'm like the Mountain Tough, they're part of the Eastman's Elevated podcast. I've been doing them every other day with my runs, but man, just strengthening these muscles and these small muscles, doing like these Copenhagen exercises that really, like the inner thigh, the hip mobility, the small supporting muscles. Like I'm really starting to see that show up in where I'm running more efficient. I'm more efficient in the mountains and in those movements. Been so impressed. And dude, the best workout is they do this Friday pack workout where you stick 25 to 30% of your body weight in the pack. I actually did it yesterday before I left. It was a Friday workout, but it's on for the whole weekend. But just doing lunges with packs and squats and step overs and stuff, all with this pack weight, man, I think it's the best way to get myself prepared for season and carrying a pack. It's been really good workouts. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely. And when you're preparing like this, specifically training for hunting in the mountains, you're going to see your injuries either go to nothing or be injury free, for decades. And that's what I stress too, is getting those workouts in, the same type of workouts and the same type of training that I'm going to encounter in the mountains, right? And I think it plays such a huge role. Number one, not only in just stability, but just walking in the mountains is an art in itself, and doing it efficiently and quietly and stepping over things and placing your feet correctly where you're not making noise, and then your balance on uneven terrain. Like keeping your core strong, like what you're illustrating with the Mountain Tough Fitness and those core workouts. If your core is strong with just these overall like stability and strength workouts, it's just going to pay dividends in the mountains. It just is. And it's going to keep you more injury resistant.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so it's starting to get pretty exciting around the West. There's a lot of draw results coming out. Always tough to draw tags, but we're starting to put together a season. At least we kind of know where we're headed or what we're going to be hunting, or if not yet, then soon we're going to be getting those results back. So, yeah, I thought we could talk today about just kind of preparing for these hunts. Like once you draw a tag, what are the next steps? What should you be doing to guarantee success come this fall?
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and we're probably a little bit different because we're doing multiple hunts a fall, so there's a lot to it, right? And like there's one thing I can bank on is general tags, or like my in-state tags. I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do, and then if I can attain a non-resident elk tag somewhere, I kind of pick my hunt and choose accordingly based on how I want to hunt my home state too, with timing, right? So there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and I never bank on drawing anything, In this day and age, I don't care what state it is or what draw system it is, nothing's guaranteed. You just do not know how these draws are going to turn out based on commission meetings and what they approve. Quotas can change at the last minute right before the draw. They can slip things in, pull things out. And so, man, you just can't predict this stuff. And so, I know I'm going to have a couple general tags, and that's about it. That's what I'm counting on.
Yep. Yeah, I pretty much got my season planned out, and we'll see if I can draw something else here. But yeah, my strategy for my hunt just drastically changed too, as I didn't draw my Montana limited hunt, which we have some easy draw limited entry hunts. And so I was kind of preparing myself to hunt that because I've drawn it about 100% of the time I put in, and this year I did not draw it. So like you say, things change. There's more people applying. Maybe I just got unlucky, whatever the case is. But I am fortunate that I do have general tags like you. And so my strategy is just totally flip-flop now from preparing to hunt, kind of more open country full of rattlesnakes, different ways that I hunt it, to now getting back to these general hunts. So yeah, I have a lot of backpack hunts I'm planning on this year. So some of the logistics I'm working on are trying to get a packer lined up to get an elk out. And then I actually have one spot that I want to get horseback rid into that's quite a ways back, that I know a bunch of elk sit in there. It's just I can't pack one out on my back. It's just too far. So trying to get that lined up and plan out my dates. And my dates have also shifted too, where I have a couple like general season tags. So now trying to fit in those hunts and what I'm going to do. But I think it's a lot of backpacking. And then I'm going to use my bear season this year to really go into some of these remote places and find vantage points. And I do have a bunch of experience in this country, but really it's probably been 10 years since I've really focused hard in these wilderness spots, or backcountry spots, we'll say. They're not all wilderness spots, but yeah, a lot of backpacking for my hunts this year. So trying to get my body prepared, trying to get logistics figured out, and then also timing is huge on these hunts. Man, you time a hunt wrong, there could be 0 elk in that spot. So trying to really plan out my early elk season, which you're really good at taking advantage of, before those big bulls have cows. The other thing that's good about early hunting is in a lot of these western units, these elk seem to come down to ag later in the season. It's like their food burns off up high, or maybe it's the hunting pressure pushes them, but they seem to drop to ag or drop to a lot of private. The good thing is early, the first couple weeks of the season, they're all up in the national forest, or they're all up where you can hunt them up in there. So that's an advantage as well. So just trying to play all these factors and plan out an entire elk season from beginning to end of where I'm going to hunt and what I'm going to do. But yeah, not drawing a tag can be as good for planning as drawing a tag, because now at least I know where I'm going to go and know where I'm going to be hunting.
Yeah, no, you bring up some really valid points. And that's the first thing that I think about, or what I tell guys, when you acquire a tag, or maybe even before you apply for an area or plan on hunting, is really figuring out what the elk do, like the overall spectrum of what the elk do in that range. And it's crazy because it varies so much regionally, state-wise, it varies, mountain range-wise, it can vary, just so different. And so if you can figure out summer area, staging for the rut, and then post-rut, and, I was going to call it second cycle, but post-rut meaning like October second cycle, and then, after the rut too, of November, and when they're like recouping. If you can figure out that timeline of what the bulls do, or what the elk do in general, that's huge. And that should be the first step before you're thinking about, I'm going to go 10 miles back, or I'm going to hunt down here on this private, or whatever. And spending a fall in an area to kind of get an idea is really handy. And I know, it sounds easy, it sounds convenient, but it's not. I mean, whether or not, you can acquire a tag every year, then yeah, you can spend a fall there and then come back with a better plan the next year, or maybe put some things together and talk to a biologist, talk to some local folks, and maybe have some insight. And that's one of my number one rules that I have when it comes to elk hunting, because as you know, an elk hunt that you have no intel on can chew you up and spit you out, and you go home with nothing. That's very common, and it's very easy to do. And so I do not like moving areas or going to another general unit, whether you're in Colorado, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, whatever, without one bit of good intel. So that's just kind of my personal rule. Number one is to have something and some intel from somebody that they're a reliable source. Maybe you respect how they hunt, or you respect that they've been successful for many years or whatever, but you have some sort of reliable intel. That's the first piece of the puzzle. And then you're kind of building from there based off of what I just explained, like what the elk do. But those are kind of the stepping stones and the blueprint to set yourself up for success. And that's what's very important. And so that's kind of what resonated with me, what you were saying with, going, spring bear time. It's a great time to learn the roads, learn the closures, learn where you can get to, find those master vantage points. And it gives you a great idea of what you're up against. And so maybe you do draw an elk tag and you have a tag in your pocket and you've never been to a spot, and maybe you have some intel, like I said, but spring bears is time to come out and really learn what's going on. And not everybody has that luxury of picking up everything and coming out for a week or 10 days and doing a spring bear hunt in their unit. I mean, everybody's got busy lives. I get that, but that helps a lot. And it's amazing. You can go from, e-scouting is one thing, but actual boots on the ground are completely different. And I still geek out with e-scouting, but I don't spend the hours at it that I used to, because I can go on there and see what looks good to me, but is that actually where the elk are? And sometimes it is, and a lot of times it's not. And are these roads accurate on whether they're open, whether a motorcycle trail, whether they're a 4x4 trail? OnX does a good job at it. They do. But still, there's just no substitute for boots on the ground, right? I mean, there just isn't.
Mm-hmm. What you just highlighted is so important, Dan. The overall, what the heck the animals are doing. And that goes for mule deer, too. If you drew a mule deer tag, what season are you going to be hunting them in? And there's like these cycles or these behavior of these animals that will go throughout a season. And if you're not tapped into that, then your e-scouting is no good, because you're not even looking at the right elevation or where they're at, or don't know the movements of the animals. So the same thing could be said for mule deer. They're in their alpine environment early, and that's going to last until the first week of September, somewhere there. Once they start to rub their velvet, they're going to move down into secondary living. Once they move into secondary living, they tighten up their programs. They're going to be living with other bucks. As it gets closer to the rut, they're going to stage closer to their rutting grounds. They're going to start running solos, or maybe in small little groups. And then during the rut, their rutting grounds are totally different. So knowing what season you have and where to focus on, and like the elk, like you say, it's so different from state to unit. But some common threads would be like the elk start up way up high, and the bulls are running together at the first part of the season, very start of September. The cows are down in more lush feed in the basins, in the bottoms, a little bit lower than the very tops of the mountains. Although, in Colorado and places, they can be 12,000 feet. And in Montana, Wyoming, they can be 10,000 feet up there in lush feeding grounds. But just knowing this behavior that, okay, now we're going to start pre-rut. Now these bulls are going to start to frequent and move to where the cows are. They're going to start to gather their cows. They're going to get together and have this big sort out where they're going to grab the cows, and then they're all going to split up and go to different ridge lines in different places. And each bull's going to have his harem of cows that he's going to run. And in places, there's going to be more competition. And in elk, where they like to rut, they don't just like they are nomadic and they do move through a mountain range, but it's almost like during that hunting season, if they can find a spot they're not being bothered where they can just rut, they're just going to hang there until they're pressured out of that spot. So knowing that, and then knowing as it gets to peak rut, and then you're talking the post rut or second cycle estrus, they're going to drop in elevation down the mountain. They're going to get in big groups, and then they're going to try to catch these cows coming into second cycle. So basing your hunt plan on this knowledge, then you can start to e-scout with purpose, and you can start to scout with purpose. And like you say, like having some good intel, talking to the biologists, and of course for me, what trumps all is like personal experience in these places. And it's not the exact same from year to year. Like it varies depending on weather, depending on feed, depending on, like there's so many factors, but at least I have this rough guideline of what the season's going to look like and where I expect the elk to be. And then I can e-scout those areas depending on the time that I'm going to hunt. And so it takes a while to like solve this puzzle. But once you can kind of start to put your finger on it, then you're e-scouting and scouting with purpose. And then the places you look at that you plan on going into, it's like, okay, I've seen elk in this area around this timeline. I know they like this spot. Then I can start to look for other areas that look like that spot, same elevation, same kind of locations in and through there. So I think there's just a lot to what you said and what you highlighted about seasons, elk behavior, mule deer behavior, and where they're going to be hanging, and then planning your time around what you want to hunt there. And so, you also have human pressure. Like elk season, like second week can be really good. By the time third week, everybody takes their vacation to go hunt elk the third week. So even though the elk hunting may be off the hook and the rut's off the hook, they're tougher to find because you got guys everywhere that are pressuring them out of all these spots. So, and then fourth week can be good. Pressure starts to wane. You're still in a bit of that peak rut. Same with second season, like right when they're first coming into the rut, like those are really good dates, the 10th to the 17th, or maybe even a touch early, 10th to the 15th. Like those are great dates to plan. And then like in Montana, you have the option to hunt October after everybody leaves. The elk will still rut, not as hard as third week of September, but they'll still bugle and rut. You can still get into some rut fest, but you don't have any of the pressure. So there's really a lot of strategy that goes into when you're going to hunt this tag that you drew.
Yeah, it's so important. And I factor all that in every year based on, the tags that I'm applying for, the tags that I have in my pocket. And I always, how do I say this? I always, when I'm picking my hunts or deciding what hunt to go on, that's a secondary hunt, so it's an out-of-state hunt. It's going to be a different style of hunt than what my primary hunt is in Wyoming, because what you said about timing and the rutting and maybe pressure. And so, yeah, they're going to be totally different styles, but it's set up that way because I want to give myself the best chance at success of, hunting here the first half of September and then hunting here the end of September and into October. And so, yeah, it's very, you have to be calculated, right? Especially when these tags are becoming harder and harder to come by, especially as non-residents. Trying to acquire a tag out of state is very challenging nowadays. The good old days are over of just going down in August and buying a leftover or buying any OTC tag. So yeah, and like I've said in the past, I hunt every hunt like it's my last elk hunt. I'm leaving nothing out there. I'm putting it all on the table, and you just never know when it's going to be your last one. And if not, you go into the winter knowing, even if you came back successful, you go into the winter knowing that, man, I gave it my all and I did my homework and I did everything I needed to do. And sometimes, hunting's just hunting. You don't always kill something. And that's something you got to be okay with. I mean, you don't have to kill something every time, but knowing that you did your homework and you did all that you could physically, humanly possibly do to help yourself become successful, that's what the real victory is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are no guarantees in this Western hunting. It's so difficult. It's part of the reason why we like it. But yeah, definitely, I have that same sentiment coming into this season, and as I do coming into every season. It's I'm going to hunt it like it's my last, and I'm going to do the absolute best I can do, and I'm trying to, like I am fortunate. I get to do a lot of hunts, but I've got to be able to place in. Okay, I'm hunting mule deer this week, and then I'm going to switch to elk, and I've got 3-4 weeks of elk hunting, and I've got this spot I'm going to hit early. If I don't fill out, I'll come back to it late. But then mid-season, I'm here, and I watched you, like with your schedule last year, is like you had 3 elk tags, but you had to put your focus on this limited entry elk tag that you drew, that you knew you had a chance at a giant bull. And you killed a giant bull in there, but you had to plan your elk season around that and giving yourself a ton of time for that hunt. So it cut you short on other states, on other hunts, and you killed another bull early, but you were hunting them way early, which you wouldn't have planned that hunt that way if you didn't have this other tag. You had to fit it in somewhere, and so that hunt got shifted to early because you had a primary hunt. So, that happens as well, as you've got to shift things around, but the timing is huge. And, for Montana this year, for hunting mule deer, like I've done really good in October, and a lot of times I'll save my tag because I want to hunt the rut in November, but I'm hunting with the general rifle guys, and there's a lot of pressure out there. It's not the time to kill a big one for me. Maybe if I was hunting with a rifle with those guys, and I've got some good spots and I've killed some good bucks, but this year my focus shifts, and now it's to get them in October before the rifle season comes in this pre-rut location where I know a lot of these bucks are, and I've hunted this spot now. I hunted a new spot this year that I'm really excited about, but I have to now give myself time to go hunt that thing in late September, early October after I finish out elk. Like I've got to get right to that mule deer hunt instead of saving it for the rut. My timing is off if I save it too long for the rut. And sure, I chase some good bucks around and I have some fun, but my timing on that hunt is going to shift this year. And so just trying to plan out these windows of time when it's going to be good hunting, when I need to focus on these different states, different units, different hunts that I have. And then also, Montana, I've got a 6-week bow season and I want to kill a good bull. I'm not going to plan it for 1 week. I might take a week and hunt them, but I'm going to have another week on the back burner. I'm going to have long weekends, and I'm going to set my goal. And so I may get to experience all the elk rut with that tag because it might not happen the second week of September. But I know I've got time on my side, so I've just got to keep setting aside time. Like, okay, I'm going to start here, and if it goes to mid-season, this is where I'm going to focus at. If it starts going to late season, I know to look in these places. I'm going to hunt with a backpack a bunch, and just starting to like formulate this game plan for the hunts that you're going to do in the fall, and then lining up your time off. And that's with your family, with your job, with whatever you have, whatever days you want to hunt. It shouldn't be a secret to the people that you love, or your family. It shouldn't be a secret to your boss, or to owning your own business, the clients that you're working for. Like, be up front with it and go, this is the time that I'm going to lot here. I'll have everything taken care of. There'll be guys on your job site, but I won't be here. I'm going to be hunting. I have this tag, or whatever the case is. But I think you have to plan for that as well. You can't just get there and hope for the best, or you'll just have a day here or there and you won't fill a tag. Like, you've really got to set aside days out west for these hunts, and probably more days than you even think you need. Like, there's so many hunts that I go on where I give myself a week and I don't fill out, and then I've got to try to scramble and make it back there for another trip to try to fill out on that tag. It doesn't always happen in that week off, so having like a backup plan of more days you can spend. And even if you're traveling from someplace far, maybe you grab another flight out, or maybe you could extend your trip by 3-4 days at the end, or there's different ways around it, different contingencies that you can make whether or not you fill out. And there's also contingencies that you can make that, hey, if I do kill a bull the first 3 days, I've got a long season in front of me. Now I've got to get to something else and shove something else in this spot that I've got time off. Or it's just such a moving schedule, and it doesn't have to be a lot of pressure. It's fun for me. But there is a lot of planning involved in trying to be successful.
Yeah, you take it for granted because we had been doing it a while, but thinking about it too, like all these hunts that I'm planning on, I'm always planning up a backup trip, like a second shot at it, further down the road. And then I see what other tags I have, and like, okay, with this tag too, how can I plan for another shot at it farther down the road? And you might not need it, but still, I mean, if you're burning double-digit points or more, 20 plus points, like I still hear guys that are like, I have a week to hunt and that's it. And it's like, gosh, man, I mean, you waited 25 years for this. You're going to get one chance at it. You better plan like 2 weeks and even maybe a second trip if it comes down to it. That's how my mind thinks.
Mine too.
And so I get it. Everybody can't, make 2 trips out and come out from Ohio and do a trip in September and then do a trip in October. I get it. But if you're, limited to that, I would say 10 days minimum, maybe 14 days, and have a few rest days in the middle there to just kind of regroup and reset. And it's amazing what that can do too if you're limited to a one-shot deal. But as we've talked in the past, especially like on the Mule Deer Collective, we talk about this a lot in there, is, really you're probably only effective as a hunter up to maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 days maximum. You're going to be like sharp, 100% effective as a hunter. You need to get out, regroup, take care of business, whatever that may be. You're better off to go back in and hit it again for another 5 to 7 days. And you'll find that you're just going to be fresher, you're going to hunt more effectively, and you're going to be more successful in the end. That's what I've really seen too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do my best work in the first 5 days, and I can stretch it for sure. And I can be effective for 10, but I'm exhausted at the end of it, you know, or maybe even a couple more days. You're right. Like a rest day in the middle, go get your gear right, go get a shower, go get to re-up your food, maybe move locations. And, you don't have to totally abandon hunting either. You can glass from afar and really use that morning and evening to try to locate animals from a long ways away and just get a feel for what's around or check out a new area. There's things you can do to kind of keep your mind in it. But yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you have to build some of those rest days in your schedule as well. And two, I need family days in my schedule. It's like I have a busy hunting season, but I just can't be gone for 45 days straight. Like I've got to build weekends in, and I've got volleyball games I've got to make it to, and I still got to be a dad and a husband throughout hunting season. And so I go really hard, but I know that I need to build a couple days in my schedule to regroup before the next hunt. I need 2-3 days. I got to get my laundry done. I've got to get gear cleaned up. I've got to get organized and set for the next hunt. And I've got to spend some quality time with my family so they see me and maybe even get some business work done or whatever the case is. But I know that I can't book myself for 60 days straight hunting. Like I have to have a few days built in here and there to go regroup, check in, and to me, like the best days, it's so nice when my schedule will allow where I'm like taking a weekend off to hang out with the family. They're off work, I'm off work, we hang out for the weekend, and really those are the best days to take off because they've got the most hunting pressure in the woods, and then I get back after it during the week, and so that works really well for me. But yeah, I got to get everybody prepared. It's going to be another big year with a lot of days in the field, and the key to being successful is really having the time too. You got to be able to put the time in on these hunts, like you illustrated. Like it's really, and especially the longer it took you to draw the tag, or the longer you've been applying, or the tougher the tag is to draw. And really, all these hunts are important, and you should spend the most amount of time you can on them to try to be successful. But there's even more so when you draw one of these premium tags, or you really have a good opportunity that you want to try your hardest to seize that opportunity and come out with a real quality animal and a quality experience that you're stoked for.
Yeah, and there's a couple ways to skin the cat. And thinking about this when you were talking here, it's like, and I know you're the same way, but we're the type of guys that we have maybe 5 or 7 days, and we're going hard. Like you said, we're going hard. And then whether we're backcountry, which we probably are, we're living out of a tent, and that drains on you. I mean, it takes it out of you. But then you also have guys that are really good at getting a trailer, and maybe they take 3 weeks and they're hunting pretty easy, and that's a way to do it too. longevity wise really effective. But I'm not the type of guy that's gonna be like, nah, we'll see where that bull is tomorrow or whatever. Like if I have a wind, I'm going to make a play on that bull. Like I'm a pusher, right? If the opportunity is there,
Yeah.
I'm pushing and going after it. So I'm not the type that's gonna hang around for 3 weeks in a trailer and sleep in or just glass or whatever. Like I'm gonna hit it. I'm gonna get after it. But factoring in all these other things too of like my limited entry tag last year, like it's a long ways from home. And so I'm factoring that in and I'm thinking longevity. So, okay, we're going to hook up the team lodge and we're going to bring it up there because it's not like there's hotels out there or, any place that, I have to stay. I don't plan to pay anybody to be out there, but bring the team lodge up there. You have a camper, so you can get out of the weather. You kind of sleep in your a bed, and that right there gives you a little bit more longevity. So we're still up at 5 a.m. and out there doing stuff early, and then we're out there late at night. So we're not getting a lot of time in the camper anyway. But that takes your ability from maybe hunting effectively out of a tent for 5 to 7 days to like 14 days if you're out of a team lodge, and you just have a little bit more of those comforts of home that you can get back to. And like up there last year on my hunt, it rained for a day and a half straight, and we got, I think it was 6 inches of rain in a day and a half. And I mean, that would have sucked if you're in the backcountry in a tent for 2 days. Let's call it 2 days. And with that amount of water that was coming down was unbelievable. And we were just sitting there snug as a bug in a rug in the team lodge, letting it rain. And so that right there, that was kind of a reset in itself, is because we're hanging out and watching it pour rain. And I'm not talking like, I love hunting in the rain and the drizzle and like those are the conditions I prefer, but we're talking like downpour, like shutting her all down, can't even get anywhere amount of rain.
No visual,
no
nothing.
No glassing, fog, yeah. And so that right there was a very beneficial reset. And I'm glad to have something like the team lodge, because I was like, we're going to stay up here 2 weeks. And I think I killed my bull on day 10. So, you're factoring that in, and you want to be selective, and you want them to make the most of the hunt, and you want to have all those tools to set yourself up for success. And so thinking of if you're coming from a long ways away, like that's a good way to have it, is to have a trailer or have some sort of like semi-cozy lodging that you can have at your fingertips. And even, if you want a base camp somewhere, you don't have to come back to the team lodge every night, but base camp somewhere out of that is incredibly beneficial. So yeah, I mean, logistics. I mean, that's what hunting is. And then just the actual hunt and the harvest is like just such a tiny portion. It's crazy.
It is. Yeah, I like the point you made about a good base camp. We're constantly talking about being mobile and minimalist, but these are for short rips. If you got an extended stay, I think it does pay to set up like a quality base camp. Like I know truck camping, like just having a cooler full of food and cold drinks and like man, I can sure be efficient for a longer period of time if I've got a comfy base camp. And so maybe you do set up a wall tent. Maybe you do bring out a team lodge, a camper that you can live out of. And yeah, then you're really comfortable. You can ride out storms and things and then hunt efficiently. And I know as it gets into late season mule deer, that's what I did last year. I set up wall tent camps for everywhere I went and hunted mule deer late last year. And I hunted mule deer for like over 20 days, 2 different states for that one that I killed. And it's some setup and some cleanup, but man, did we have a nice camp to come back to, and I could hang out with my buddies and we could cook a good dinner and we could have some laughs, and then we had a good warm tent to go to bed to wake up to in the morning, where if I was cold camping with frost and ice all over the tent, never warm, trying to keep warm by a campfire, and it gets so cold where you can't even keep warm by a campfire anymore. My effective days of hunting, I wouldn't have been able to do 20 days. You're talking 3 to 5 where I can, 5 days where I can really grit it out in below zero temperatures, snowing sideways, and be able to survive it. So like, sometimes I think it pays to like build this into your hunt plan, to have like a really good base camp. And maybe you're even backpack hunting, but you're hunting elk and you're mobile. And so you're going to be 2-3 days here, And so you can take your little tent in and you can go backpack into these spots, but then you come back out and you have your base camp set up and you got coolers with food there where you don't got to go back to town, and you almost come back to your base camp, and that's a reset where it's like, well, this is pretty good living. This isn't so bad. Like, okay, I'm ready to get back after it. I feel recovered and recouped and ready to put full effort. So yeah, the way you talk about logistics, I think that's a huge part of your hunt plan, is just how you're going to survive, and then just figuring out all the small stuff. Like, so many of these places we hunt, you can't get gas, and so having gas cans in your truck and gas cans that don't leak. There's nothing worse than a sandwich that tastes like gas, And so, like, you got to make sure they don't leak, so you've got them tied down a certain way, and then you've got extra gas, and then that makes it to where I don't have to drive 60 miles to town to get gas and 60 miles back. I can continue to just hunt effectively, and I have everything I need with me. The cooler's worth of food, the ice, or even salting your ice so it'll last throughout the trip. Like, all these little logistics that you learn, and that goes for truck camping, for backpack camping, for whatever it is. But you really have to dial in your logistics for a hunt to be able to hunt effectively. It's not just about killing that animal.
Yeah, and that stuff drives me nuts. And it happened last year on my limited entry hunt. We got like 5 flat tires on the e-bikes, and my tire repair kit was a little bit underwhelming, and so I'd go to town, and guess what? Town's 45 miles one way, and that irks me because you're missing out on such valuable time to be out there. And you might not think, well, it's the middle of the day, you're not going to be hunting anyway, but that's very valuable staging time to make a play on something that you found in the morning, and that you move in and kind of you're staging, you're getting ready for the evening action. Like, that's very important stuff. And so what happens then is you're just limited to, something quick in the morning and something quick in the evening. You're starting from scratch basically on both of those if you go to town or not. And so, yeah, it's a hunt killer. And if you're doing that every day, you just lost a lot of effectiveness if you're going to town every day or every other day or, whatever the case is. And so, yeah, even my kit is not 100% efficient. Stuff happens. I wouldn't have thought I would get 5 flat tires,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 1, but not 5. And so you just got to roll with the punches is what it is. And once again, it takes you back to giving yourself enough time,
Mm-hmm.
because you always got to factor in that 2 or 3 days are going to be wasted because of weather, relocation. Something happens, you have to go to town, maybe a restock for food or whatever. And so, yeah, it's very important, and time goes fast out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tire repair kits for your bike and for your vehicle. I've
Yeah.
repaired a lot of tires myself. If you don't have that and it's a weekend day and then all you have is your spare on there, you don't feel like you can go as hard. So, like, having a
Yeah.
tire repair kit, having a small compressor in your truck, having a jump kit. A lot of times you're 100 miles away from service, and if you run your battery dead, you got to jump that thing somehow. So having like a jump kit in there, like all of these contingencies, like for the hunt, they come into play. It's like nice to have what you need. And like you say, we're not 100%. It doesn't always work, but also just testing your gear. Like, if you're going to backpack hunt and you've never slept a night in your tent, like maybe you didn't seal your seams, and now all of a sudden you get a rainstorm and you got water dripping on you from your seams of your tent. Like, sleep is so important for recovery, for hunting good the next day. And it wears on you too. If you're not getting sleep, it wears on your mental, on your attitude, on your perseverance. Like, pretty soon you're just like, heck with it, it's not going to happen. Or you just get negative about things. And so getting that sleep every night so that you recover is so important. So you better be testing your tent, and you better have a pad that's comfortable to sleep on. There's nothing worse to me than sleeping 8 hours. I'd never sleep 10 hours, I don't think, but sleeping like 8 hours, but you just wake up about 10 times in the night because your shoulder's sore, your hip's sore, your pad just isn't comfortable enough, and so you're constantly rolling over and waking up. And so even though you set aside, you allotted 8 hours to sleep, really you never got good sleep that night and you wake up exhausted. Making sure that your tent doesn't flap around, that you've got the tie downs figured out, that you're in a good location, that you can ride out storms. Yeah, having a good comfortable pad, and I probably owned 10 or 12 different pads to try to find the right one. The one I really like right now is the Big Angus. It's an insulated, like it's a Q21. It's a green pad. It's 2.5 inches thick. I sleep really good on that one. But you know what? You better have a little patch kit in there too if you bust that thing, because you might have to spend 4 days sleeping in the dirt on pine needles, which you're not going to get good sleep. But I think all of these little things, all of these details, I think they factor in whether or not you're successful. We put so much emphasis on the hunt, the e-scouting, the stalking, which is really important, which it comes down to that's how you kill animals. But if you can't keep out there and recover day after day, if you can't keep yourself dry, if you can't, if you don't have the right logistics and you have a flat tire and you got to run to the tire stop, like you're never going to be successful because you're going to be chasing your tail on these logistics the whole time. So you better make sure that you have all these logistics squared away. And also, I know for me, on a hunt, I may be backpacking in, but I've got everything in my truck to sleep at night too. So if I make a pack out, I can sleep at my truck at night. Or maybe I'm backpacking, but I have to move areas. So now I want to be able to truck camp here. Or some hunts that I think are going to be backpack hunts turn into truck hunts, and some hunts that I think are truck hunts turn into backpack hunts. So you kind of got to be prepared for anything as well. So you just really want to have your gear system dialed for these Western hunts. As most of us aren't near our home where we're hunting, or a lot of us are traveling to hunt.
And man, it can take years. I mean, it's easier said than done. It's so hard to have everything dialed every hunt. And there are guys that it's almost like they put too much attention into like the gear and the details and making sure they have every little thing, and they kind of neglect the hunting skill set of it. And so you can go too far,
Yep.
and then you can be too far over here. And so I think it's just important to be well-rounded, but have all the skill sets, but don't obsess about gear too much. Like, we have to be into gear and we have to be into being prepared, but don't give all your attention like on being prepared. The one thing that I was thinking when you were talking about that I completely overlooked, and this was probably 10 years ago. But I got a spare tire in my truck, no problem. I got every vehicle has a jack from the manufacturer, right? Little chintzy jack. I got one of those, no problem. And so I ended up with a flat tire up there in the mountains, and I crawl under there and I realize that I haven't checked the spare tires and this spare tire that I have in 5 years. I don't even know the status of this thing. Does it have air in it? So I pull the spare tire out. It's flat too.
Oh no.
So now I'm screwed. So I hitchhiked to town with a tire to get it fixed, and then had a buddy drive me back up. But just that right there, I mean, that's a 2-day, hurdle that if I just would have checked my spare tire, I would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you don't completely overlook things, but don't obsess too much about having, a 12-ply tire, and it's got to be the best one. It's got to be brand new every 2 years, and on and on and on. Like, don't obsess too much, but just make sure your gear's squared away. And it is easy to overlook some of that stuff. It really is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we all learn our lessons, and still, I mean, even that, like we've discussed too in the past, that maybe the first hunt of the season, we might not have our kit completely dialed. We got new gear and new things that we're trying. We might forget something, and so you get a trip under your belt. Then you kind of like, I forgot this. I forgot to update my first aid kit. I used some stuff out of there last year. I don't have all the stuff that I need. I'm going to write that one down and go back there, go back to town after the hunt and, get your first aid kit updated. But stuff like that, like usually get something under your belt before your big hunt. So you work all the kinks out, right? And so then you can kind of go back and recoup and figure out what you're lacking on. But once again, I think you can do that without hunting, without going on a hunting trip. Go camping in August. I don't care where you are. Go on a road trip, go somewhere, go camping, go fishing, go hiking, whatever, and test out your kit And okay, maybe I do need to make sure I have a good spare tire, or maybe two, depending on if you're going to be doing a lot of driving. And then, like another thing I've overlooked, like with dirt bikes over the years, I don't have a spare dirt bike tire. I don't have a patch kit. I've never got a flat tire on a dirt bike tire. But still, like, dadgum, I might have to rethink this, or at least have, enough. What's the slime? The green stuff to like maybe get yourself out of somewhere if you're in a pickle and get air in your tire, and make sure you have a quality hand pump. Like I learned that lesson last year too with the e-bikes. I had a good 12 volt, little pump from Harbor Freight that saved my tail.
Yep.
But didn't have a good hand pump, and so I ended up doing is what are they called? Those little jump packs that you referred to, a Poseidon, or I can't remember what it's called, but it's a little power pack, and you can plug a jumper cable into it, and so you can jump a diesel vehicle. Like they're amazing, and so like I always have one of those now, whether I'm dirt biking or e-biking or whatever, just for your truck. Good grief, get yourself a power pack. But what I was doing, and what I ended up doing, is taking this Harbor Freight little electric pump and throwing it in my backpack, and then bringing that little power pack too, because it had a 12 volt cigarette lighter adapter as well. So I'm packing those things in and back there pumping up my tires like 3 miles from the truck. So you make it work. You figure it out. You troubleshoot, right, and figure it out. If you have most of the tools, you can. If you're somewhat resourceful, you could troubleshoot your shit, right?
Yeah,
you
totally.
can get it figured out.
Yeah, problem solving can definitely be part of it. Yeah. It's and also your clothing and layering systems, and like you said, you get a couple trips under your belt, and then you feel pretty comfortable, confident about your kit. But it's a big part of it, and me and you put so much emphasis on the hunt. Like, I know I'm constantly thinking about how to be successful, and my gear kind of sorts itself out. I've just been doing it long enough that I can just throw stuff in the truck, and I know I'll have enough, and I'll be okay. But it's also planning. Like everything that we mentioned, I have all the time because I've ran into it before, where it has cost me a day with a flat tire, not having a patch kit, or not having a compressor where I can just air up the tire, all these little things that can come into play. I've had tents that have leaked. I've had uncomfortable pads. And yeah, I survived and I hunted, and who knows if I killed an animal on those hunts or not. But yeah, you make it through. You're resourceful. You can figure anything out. But just as you're planning for your hunt, make sure you're considering all these contingencies on your hunt. Make sure that you're considering how much gas, how much food you're going to need, like having backpack food and having cooler food so you can backpack into a spot. Like all of that stuff will come into play. And you have to be good at like suffering and sleeping in the dirt, and just kind of being good at being uncomfortable too. Like, for me, it's, sure, I had a base camp and we're pretty well set up, but I don't spend all the time to have all the, like I don't, you got a place to cook, you got some stuff to cook, but it's just, I'm not going to spend 2 days to set up a camp and 2 days to pick up a camp. I just know what I need. I'm going to set that up. I've got a good base camp. I'm good. So I can put emphasis on the hunt and covering country. And yeah, I think, and you make mistakes as well. Backpacking, like, you can't bring everything you want. Like, you have to have a minimalist mindset, and you have to like look at your gear and go, what can I leave? And I know even last year, my high country mule deer hunt, my optics kit, I was just back and forth. We had just got those new Gen 3 50 mil objective lens, Sig Sauer optics, and then I had my normal 12 by 42s I carry, and then I thought, well, I'm going to bring these 16 by 50s because I might turn up a mule deer. Oh, and I need my scope because I've got to be able to field judge them. So here my optics kit is so freaking heavy with my tripod, 2 sets of binos, my spotting scope, and I didn't really use that other set of binos that much. I'd pick them out with the 12 by 42s, I'd stick the scope on them, and so, after that trip and packing around a set of binos that was 2-3 pounds that I didn't need, it's like, okay, now I've got my kit dialed in. Now I can leave those behind. Now I can plan a little bit better. And so there's going to be things you learn along the way, but you also have to learn to live without And you have to get good at suffering and being uncomfortable and adverse weather conditions and just not get spooked off the mountain. Like you got to be able to go full send, sleep in the dirt, be a little miserable, little sleep deprived here and there. Like that is part of it too. I think that's probably the best trait you could have, is just to like be tough and have grit. And you talked about it in the last podcast, like Sam Davis and his grit and determination, what he has. Like, I think we can all take something away from that. And I think that's what I'm really good at. That's what you're really good at, is making do with less, problem solving, being comfortable with the uncomfortable, and being okay to suffer a little bit and give it your all on these hunts, because it will take that too.
It will. It will. Don't overlook bringing in a couple earplugs and just popping those in and be like, if I get eaten by a grizzly bear, I get eaten. Get a good night's rest. Freak the camera guys out a little bit, but no, that's important. It really is. But yeah, you got to suffer. I mean, and if you hate suffering or you hate being uncomfortable, go do it. And I'm that type of person though. Is like, if I feel like I'm getting a little soft, or I'm like, I don't like this, or I don't, this isn't comfortable enough, then it's like, okay, time for me to go get uncomfortable. Time for me to go bust out a mile and run as fast as I can and punish myself. Whatever it is. But that's how sick we are, right? Is like we like to suffer, but we find value in that, because not only does it make us better, I believe it makes us better people, better fathers, better at just any day-to-day task. If you have a little bit of perspective, because that's what it gives you, right? It gives you a little bit of perspective. And if you have perspective, there's nothing in life that can hold you back. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah. Well, and it's a muscle that needs to be flexed. If you don't use it, you lose it. And you can definitely draw upon past hunts that were really difficult. You can draw upon training that's really difficult. But yeah, you just you have to be okay with suffering, and that's a big part of why we see success too. Is I think to be successful in Western hunting, in the do-it-yourself public land game that we play, you have to be willing to do more than the next guy. Like, I just can't help becoming back to that. And you can go find your own experience. You can be on your own. But I think the key to success nowadays, there's so many guys that are working hard. There's so many guys that are e-scouting that are willing to put so much in. But I feel like I'm willing to put more in. I'm willing to put more blood, sweat, and tears into my bow hunting than the next guy. And I think that goes for my training, my preparation. I think that goes for on the hunt. I'm willing to suffer more than the next guy to find success, because I know what it feels like. I know how much I want it. I know how hard I've trained for it. Like, I am willing to put it all out there, like kind of where we started the conversation. I am willing to put my maximum effort into this hunt, all I'm capable of, and that includes sleep deprivation, being cold, suffering, tons of miles, tons of elevation, like all of these things. I'm willing to do more than the next guy, and I think that's why I find success. So yeah, I think you have to bring that attitude into the mountains with you.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
Yep. Okay. Well, just like we always do, an hour has gone by. That's a podcast, man. Always a good one with you. Never know what we're going to get into, but seems to always be good bow hunting content.
That's right. That's right. Now's probably the most critical time of the entire season, right? The planning and understanding what you're getting yourself into. And I love these conversations because, it freshens things up for me, and I'm looking forward to go hunt an axis deer here in a couple weeks. And so it keeps me focused, right? Because I have a hunt coming up, and that keeps me focused, and it's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Yeah. Yep, me too. Bear season's coming.
Yep.
Got a good Hawaii trip coming up, and then the fall is going to be really busy, and I can't wait, man. It's going to be a riot.
Absolutely.
Okay.